welcome to math class. So as I said in the morning meeting, we are talking about line plots today in relation to the fractions we've been doing. So again, remember to watch those Khan Academy videos when you're done. All right, so today adding and subtracting fractions in line plots. So just a little quick review, what is a line plot? A line plot is a way to track or organize data that you collect. Like we do with bar graphs sometimes, or circle graphs, a line plot's another way, and similar to kind of a number line. So here's an example of just an ordinary line plot without fractions. How tall the plants are in your garden. Here are the measurements you collected. Okay, so this is in feet. So you collected one, these are all your plants. One was 1, 2 of them were 2 feet, 2 of them were 3 feet, 2 of them were 4 feet, and then 3 of them were 5 feet. So if I was using a line plot, I would have much like a number line, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the X would represent the plants, each plant, right? So in this case, I had one that was 1 foot, so I would put 1X, that represents the one plant. I had 2 that were 2 feet, so I have 2 X's. I have 2 that were 3 feet, 2 X's. 4 of my plants, 2 of my plants were 4 feet, so I have 2 X's on the 4. And then 5, I had 3 plants that were 5 feet tall. So I would have 3 X's. So the X represent the plants. So if I was like looking at this data and I asked you a question and I said, how many were the tallest? How many did you have that were the tallest? You would sort of say there were 5 feet tall, there was 3 of those. So that was the most, the 5-foot plants were the most that you collected for data. And then what was the least? Well, you only had one that was 1 foot. We don't really count 0 because that would be no growth, right? And the title would probably be plants measured in feet. So let's add fractions to that. So I took out the word problem part and I just wrote, here are the fractions of measurements that we collected. So we collected measurements, let's again just say these were plants that were 1.5 feet, 2.5 feet, another 1.5, 3.5, 4, and 4.5. So my title for the line plot would be plants in feet. That's our measurement. Okay, plants measured in feet. So notice I did my new line plot, number line is 0 to 5 because my highest one was 4.5. So I want to just go a little bit higher than that. So I'm going to go ahead and do my 1, and then I'm going to make 1.5, and then I'm going to do 2, and then 2.5, and then 3, and then 3.5, 4, and then 4.5. So there's my line plot. Okay, so remember that the X's represent how many of those plants you have. So sometimes the data is not in order. Here I put it in perfect order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here it's 1.5, 2.5, 1.5. You won't always get the data in complete numerical order, so you have to keep tracking it. So 1.5, I'm going to put an X there, that represents that one. I'm going to put a check there so I know I represented that. 2.5, okay, I've got that, 2.5. I have another 1.5, so I'm going to put another X. I have a 3.5, and then I have a 4, and I have a 4.5. All right, so I might ask you a question and say, which feet were no plants measured in, okay? And then I could look and go, well, 1 had none, 2, 3, and 5. Which had the most? The ones that were 1.5 feet tall had the most plants. And then I could say there was a tie between 2.5, 3.5, 4, and 4.5. So just some data on how you can represent the data, just ways that you can represent the data. So that is your basic line plot. Adding fractions, you're just adding half or third or quarters. So that's your first lesson in that. Okay, so just to add to this today, a word problem example. So I used Blaine. Hello, Blaine. So Blaine catches 7 fish on his trip to Key West. He records the lengths of each fish caught. So here you go again, I did not put them in numerical order because you have to be able to look at those and realize, okay, they're not always going to be in order. But we have 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So what's our greatest? Our greatest number there is 6. So that means I'm going to start with 0 down here, and I'm going to put 6 over here. There isn't anything greater than 6. And again, length in inches of fish caught. All right. So, of course, we have to split it. All right. And do you guys remember the little trick about when you're splitting something and you want to make it pretty equal? You have to go one less than the number. So if I have 6, I'm going to make 5 lines. Do you guys remember that little trick? There are 5 lines. So we can start with that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, here's a little bit tricky because I see things in halves and I see things in fours. So let's just start with marking it in half. So we know this is a half, and we know this is going to be 1 1/2. This is going to be 2 1/2, 3 1/2, 4 1/2, and 5 1/2. All right, so we also see that we have 3/4 and we have 1/4. So let's just wait till we get to that one and we'll mark it in. So our first X is going to go in 6 inches. So we have 1, okay, for 6. And then we have 5 1/2. So we're going to put 1X. Remember, X equals the fish. And we have one at 3 1/2. Put a check there. 4 3/4. All right, so if I look at here, I know 3/4. You should know this from the fractions that we already did many weeks ago. 3/4 is going to be between 4 1/2 and 5. So I'm going to go ahead and mark it there. And then I'm going to do 4 3/4. Sorry, this is really tiny. So I'm going to put my check there. And I still have 5 1/2. So I have another one that was 5 1/2. I have 2 1/4. So I have 2 and I have 2 1/2. Well, 1/4 is going to be in between there. 2 1/4. I'm going to put a mark there. And then I have 4. Put my fish mark there. All right, so let's make sure we have them all represented. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Very good. All right, so then when you have a line plot, there'll be questions sometimes that you have to answer after you've plotted your marks. So what was the longest fish? The longest fish, we're going to look at the longest length, remember it's in inches, was 6. So this was 6 inches. Those aren't very big fish. Maybe we should have done it in feet. 6 inches. All right, what was the shortest? So the shortest one we have, if we go across the line, was 2 1/4 inches. And then we say which length was caught the most. So which one of these lanes has the most X's? And we see that it's 5 1/2 because it has 2. 5 1/2 inches. Now on our next lesson on Wednesday, we're going to start to actually use the adding and subtracting. Here we're just talking about representing. But we're going to have to start doing adding and subtracting. So it might be like, what's the difference between the greatest caught, the longest caught, and the shortest caught? And we'd have to subtract 2 1/4 from 6. So that kind of goes back to our mixed numbers adding and subtracting from last week. That's going to be Wednesday's lesson. So for today, you're going to go on Khan Academy and do your assignment on there that I've assigned with using fractions in line plots. All right, so that's it. Again, if you have any questions, go to my channel and you can ask me there, or you can go to your own channel and ask me there. If you really need to explain more, send me a little message on your channel and I will give you a call and you and I can talk one-on-one and I can get the whiteboard out and we can go over some more examples for you if you need help. Please make sure you're watching those videos on Khan Academy. That's reinforcing what I'm teaching here. And they're short videos. They're like 3 or 4 minutes each. So, all right, good luck. Let me know if you have questions. Have a good day.